Hello, hello, and welcome to another Overpaid Over the Bar with me, Anthony. A lot to talk about today. Looking back at game week 35 and ahead to 36, and about all the football that's been going on because the last 3 days have been very important in terms of mapping out the end of the season and who might get the share of the spoils in various competitions. So, first of all, to my team in game week 35, I played my wild card. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. I'm going I'm going for a safe finish and it did fine. I think the only area where I well lost ground because I did get a very small, let me check, a very small green arrow. And it could have been a better green arrow if I'd had a Bournemouth defender because both Hill and Senesi got hauls with defcons and clean sheets. I think one of them might have had yeah, Senesi got a dodgy penalty assist. Evidently, I didn't see it. I get fed up with all the people complaining about penalties and whatever. But yeah, that could have improved my team. My Arsenal players did fine. Eze looked pretty good, hit the post. I don't mind having him in my team. I think it's perhaps not as good a pick as Saka or Gyökeres. Talk about that in a bit. But I'm happy with him. I'm going to stick with him. Tavernier, I'm not going to stick with him. Doesn't take the penalties for Bournemouth. I don't know why I got him in on the wild card, given that he's no longer the penalty taker if Krupi's on the pitch. So that's the transfer I'm going to make this week. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes got an assist. Cherky got an assist. Haaland got his goal. Very well taken goal. What a striker he is. And the best thing was both Thiago and Calvert-Lewin scored. And I'm very happy Calvert-Lewin scored because it's a little bit risky pick given that he plays for Leeds. And hopefully they'll continue their recent good form. And on my bench, no big scores, but they all look good for next week. And next week, I'm going to play the bench boost. So before we talk about that, have a look at the overpaid over the bar table. Freddie delayed his wild card. He's still got to play it. So I think he's going to play it this week. He slipped behind me 36 points to make up now. And I also have the bench boost. So I don't think he's going to make it, but never say never, Freddie. Apart from that, 61 for Jake Wadsley, John Holloway's nephew. That's a very good score and a good rank. Keith Harper got 65. That's perhaps the best score of the. No, it isn't. Edward Clary got and John Wilson got 67. Late bid from a nephew to climb up the nephew's league. So, well, how did he get 67? He had a Haaland captain. Pedro obviously scored finally with a great goal, even though Chelsea were rubbish. Got Senesi, had Senesi and Gabriel. So that's how you get 65 points. Right. So well done to everyone who got over 55. Not an easy week. I'm saying that because I got 57. So well done me. Right. So let's look at the fixtures for this weekend. First of all, it's not a Friday deadline this week. Finally, it's a Saturday deadline. Liverpool play Chelsea in the early kickoff. Two teams out of form, two teams with unhappy supporters. Let's see how they do against each other. I guess Liverpool would win, but I don't know. Then at 3 o'clock, Brighton Wolves, Fulham Bournemouth, and Sunderland Manchester United. Brighton at home to Wolves. Now, a lot of people still have Brighton who played their wild card in 32, at least a couple. And there's some great picks in the Brighton team. Any of Van Heck, Verbruggen, Hinshelwood. I mean, Brighton defenders in general aren't bad. Arguably, Mitoma or I was going to say, no, what I'm thinking of is Gross, Pascal Gross. Any of those are great. Look at that. Wolves at home. It's difficult to imagine Wolves putting up a big fight there. Bournemouth, still good picks away at Fulham. Fulham aren't looking great, although Fulham at home are a different animal to Fulham away. Sunderland home to Man United. Again, Sunderland appear to be imploding a bit. So I have seen people with more than one Man United player, although most people just have Bruno. and then Manchester City, Brentford at 5:30. I'm going to keep Thiago for this. He's the most sold player of the week, actually. Nobody's been sold more than he has. I'm not sure that's a great idea against Manchester City. They leave gaps at the back. We've seen teams counter-attacking, and who's going to be on the end of that? It's Thiago. So if they concede one, Man City, it may well be Igor Thiago that finishes it. So I'm holding on to him. Um, Brentford do tend to create good chances. Burnley, Aston Villa on Sunday. Crystal Palace, Everton, and Nottingham Forest, Newcastle all at 3 o'clock. Three 2 o'clock fixtures, which happens seem to be happening more and more these days. Of these, I mean, people brought in Villa last week with this fixture in mind, or before. There's no point getting rid of Villa now, even though they're looking A, a bit rubbish, and B, not bothered. They seem to be more bothered about the Europa League conference semi-final, which is going to be a fascinating second leg, by the way, against Forest, who are 1-0 up at Villa Park, than they are about the Premier League. So, okay, go to Burnley on Sunday after Thursday night. Who starts that? Well, it's difficult to say. Crystal Palace, Everton. Again, Palace in the same position. They have a two-legged tie to finish off against Shakhtar, although they're in a very commanding position. It wouldn't be a surprise if they don't start half their regular big hitters, or all their regular big hitters, and then half the first team as a whole. And Nottingham Forest the same, home to Newcastle. So that's another good one for Newcastle. I said last week Newcastle were good for a sneaky one, and they did beat Brighton at home, as I predicted. By the way, I got three predictions. I had three game predictions last week. Two were really right, and one was really wrong. So I did say Bournemouth would rack up some goals at home to Palace. They did. I said that Newcastle would beat Brighton. They did. And then the one I got spectacularly wrong was Spurs at Villa. And I didn't see that game, but evidently Villa were rubbish and Spurs fully deserved their win. And they're at home to Leeds on Monday night. What a big game that is for Spurs. That's a massive game. Before that, West Ham play Arsenal at 4:30 on Sunday. Obviously, having three Arsenal players at this point is a very good idea. I think really it's between six players, and that would be Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, Eze, Saka, Gyökeres, and arguably Rice. Any three of those, I think, is a decent punt at this point, or not punt, but a decent bet at this point. So people are saying West Ham might do them, or at least get something from the game. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know. Arsenal went big on the celebrations last night. They qualified for the European Champions League final, and it was as if they'd won it. The celebrations were massive. I think it's relief as well with Arsenal fans because they've been through so many weeks of stress and doubt and feeling like they've just blown it all. I think it's a relief, that they made the Champions League final and they're in such a commanding position in the Premier League with Manchester City having dropped points at Everton on Monday night, which I must say, I've really enjoyed these games of football. Last night's game, Arsenal Atletico Madrid, wasn't a great game of football, but it's very exciting and a lot was riding on it. Then the Monday night was amazing. Everton scoring 3 goals against Manchester City. And then on the Sunday, was it Sunday when Arsenal beat? I'm not sure if it was Sunday, when Arsenal beat whoever they beat 3-0 at home on Fulham. Yeah, who just seemed to not have a clue how to defend against them. Then on Wednesday, it's the double game week extra fixture, which is Manchester City Crystal Palace. Ironically, this could be the game where Palace actually play some of their best players, although away at Manchester City, that, doesn't guarantee many points. So let's just have a look how my team stands for this double game week. I've got 5 double game week players. I've only got 2 Palace players. I'm playing my bench boost. So I don't have to have these players in the normal 11 afterwards either. So it's quite convenient. It's the only benefit I've got of playing my wild card in 35 that is a big advantage to other people, or at least an advantage to other people who played it in 32. So I've got Henderson, Lacroix. I'm not going to make any. I'm not going to bring anyone else in. I'm hoping Lacroix starts. Not guaranteed. Same with Henderson. Actually, there's no guarantee he starts both of these fixtures. And then from Manchester City, I've got O'Reilly, Cherky, and Haaland. And obviously, they're the three players most in form, most likely to score points. Doesn't mean they will. Obviously, Jeremy Doku's having his say as well. No point making another transfer there. Just leave it as it is. And I've talked about why I'm keeping Arsenal players. Calvert-Lewin at Spurs, maybe. I like Dewsbury Hall at Crystal Palace. I think that's a good one to have. I think he might well Everton might well get something from that game with Palace having played on Thursday. So happy with that one. The big question is who to bring in for Tavernier. How much money have I got? Let's have a look. 3.8. I've got 3.8 in the bank. That basically means anyone I like that is not Manchester City or Arsenal, really. Let's have a look. So transfer out Tavernier in the bank, 9.2 million. Midfielders on total points, we could say Bruno Guimaraes. I could say Dango for Brentford. Transfers in this week. Everyone else is bringing in Cherky, Saka, and Sarr. I can't bring in Saka or Doku. I don't want Sarr. I don't want Okafor. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. I think the best thing to do here would be to bring in Hinshelwood of Brighton because he has Wolves at home. So that's what I'm going to do. Doesn't matter that I've got 9 million to spend. I'm going to buy 5 million to defend. I'm going to bring in Hinshelwood. I think, but I'll do that on the morning. I'll do that on the morning of the game. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Usually I'm coughing through the screen through the stream. Today I'm through the video. Today I'm sneezing. Bit colder than normal in Portugal. So, Arsenal in the Champions League final. We have Arsenal fans in the overpaid. We've got quite a few Arsenal fans in the overpaid league. And they look like they're going to win the league as well. So all the people writing the choke Arsenal chokers, Arteta too nervous narratives are going to have to find another narrative now. But they still have some work to do. They've got to beat West Ham. They've got to beat Burnley at home and then Palace away. Now, surely that means all they have to do is beat West Ham because the other two fixtures are gimmies. So we're really looking at Arsenal Premier League champions 26-27 if they beat West Ham on Sunday. That is an absolutely massive game. And I want to ask a question about Saka. Like, as an England fan, I'm worried that Saka's never going to be 100% fit again, never mind this season or the World Cup. Because for a long time now, he's been playing on an injury and his fitness is very well protected by Arteta. It's a big shame Arteta didn't protect his fitness in the previous 3 years from when he got injured. Because as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, he was playing way too much, in my opinion. And I said so at the time. And if you look at the way Pep does it at Manchester City, when Foden was in the same age, he never used to play him every game. He didn't give him 90 minutes. He'd always make sure that, Foden was getting rest. And although you could say, well, look at Foden now, he's not what he was 2 years ago. I don't think it's to do with that. I'm quite disappointed that we may not see a fully fit Eberechi Eze at the World Cup because we got nothing much else on that right wing. I mean, you can play players. Madueke is the closest thing we have to actual winger that could really threaten on that wing. So I'm a little bit worried about that. At least he's not being overplayed. Um, and we may see him rested if Arsenal, say Manchester City slip up against Brentford and Arsenal win on Saturday. We may see him rested by the time Arsenal have clinched it automatically, completely. We may see him rested. So that's one thing I was thinking of. I'm also thinking of doing a World Cup fantasy. Well, I will do the World Cup I don't know what the game's going to be like. We'll have to see what it's like first. But if I do the World Cup fantasy football, I'll put videos on here and I'll create a mini leagues. So I noticed that a lot of people, I got a lot of viewers last week. Well, by my standards, a lot, well, not many, but I got about 100 viewers last week on the video. And I'm not sure how long people watch for, or why they're watching it. It just springs up, presumably on their algorithm. Um, but if anybody new, and I did get a few subscribers last week. So if anybody wants to join a World Cup mini league, you haven't got one with your friends or something, I'm going to put one on here and hopefully we can get a little World Cup mini league going for the fantasy. And I want to do videos on the World Cup as regularly as I can during the World Cup and not just on fantasy football because I love World Cups and I've seen a lot of them. I'm old enough to have seen I don't know how many, but my first World Cup where I watched more than a couple of games was 1970. And since then, I've watched every game in the World Cup that I could. So, I remember a lot of World Cups and I remember a lot of World Cup games. And I kind of have a bit of a memory for a lot of stats and stuff surrounding World Cup. So I was in Cape Town in 2010. I lived in Cape Town actually for 7 years. And I was at I went to 7 matches at the 2010 World Cup, which was an amazing experience. And I did a blog online about that, which unfortunately disappeared now because of the host, and the host no longer exists. So I'm disappointed I can no longer access that online. But I'd very much like to do something similar for this World Cup, like maybe um, have a look at people watching in bars, do little, in between my videos, have little shorts of people watching here in Portugal or wherever I am. I might travel a bit during the World Cup. Um, so if you're interested in that, let me know. I'm probably going to do it anyway, whether you say whatever you say. And good luck. See, oh, by the way, I haven't mentioned it because it's so depressing, but my team, Exeter City, got relegated on the weekend. It's very sad. Our points tally would have kept us up in, I think, 5 out of the last 6 seasons. And we didn't have a bad season in many ways. Like a lot of the players, some of the players are good, and we just didn't score enough goals at the end of the day. But it's a bit sad because we are a self-financing club, and I always feel that, you know, just given that, we shouldn't even be in League One. We shouldn't even be in League Two, actually. When you look at all the money being thrown at all the other clubs in League One and Two by their owners, and I just feel that, you know, um, a little bit unfair. Not, it's not a level playing field, really. On the other hand, the spirit at the club, because of that fan ownership, the spirit at the club is absolutely massive. And I do believe that next season, with the right kind of commitment, we can come back up. We're going to lose so many players because of some financial mismanagement in the last year or two where we were signing players on salaries we couldn't afford. So we're just losing some of our regular squad left, right, and centre. But for some of you out there who support more successful teams, you're looking forward to a very interesting end of the season, especially Arsenal fans. And Craig, sometimes contributor on these videos, I'll definitely get him in soon because his Hearts team are on the verge of winning the Scottish Premiership. They'll need a few more results. They're nowhere near there yet. But it's very exciting because it's a long time since Hearts won the league. I think it's 1990 or 1980. I don't know. So it's a long time. Um, I could be completely wrong with that stat. I can't remember. But it's just nice to see another team apart from Celtic and Rangers win the league. So I usually take no interest in Scottish football whatsoever, but this season I've been looking because it's Hearts and I'm hoping Craig wins his team wins the league there. All right, take care, everybody. Nice to see you, and I'll see you again uh, next next week. This is my new slot, Wednesday. There's no longer need to wait till Thursday. Nothing interesting's happening on Wednesday night anymore. So regularly now I'll be posting these videos on a Wednesday evening rather than the Thursday afternoon. But the next 3 weeks, 2 weeks maybe. Yeah, the next 2 weeks. All right. Take care. Bye bye.